The crisp autumn air held the subtle scent of decay that afternoon, perfectly mirroring the rot within my marriage, a putrid truth I discovered only months prior through the devastating revelation of Eleanor's infidelity. At that juncture, I still clung to the belief in second chances, or perhaps I was simply terrified of solitude. Our evenings were saturated with mundane routines, and the unspoken silences between us stretched endlessly. I dedicated those days to persuading myself that love could indeed survive betrayal, provided I just held on tighter. Yet, no degree of exertion could obliterate the image of witnessing her at that professional gathering, laughing with uncharacteristic ease, her hand resting on his arm as if I had ceased to exist. It was then that I started to erect defenses around my heart, meticulously, brick by brick. I feigned ignorance, feigned indifference, but the reality relentlessly gnawed at me, much like a creeping venom. Life, on occasion, can completely disrupt our meticulously laid plans. Consequently, I have entirely abandoned the notion of planning. Prior to my marital dissolution, I was perpetually engaged in comprehensive preparations for every eventuality at work. I meticulously crafted strategies to tackle any unforeseen problems that might arise within my division. I even maintained contingency plans, ready for deployment if our standard emergency protocols became unviable. This same rigorous approach, once applied to corporate challenges, found a new, darker purpose in the quiet, clandestine war I waged on my crumbling personal life. This morning, a call informed me I needed to visit my former spouse. I hadn't seen Eleanor in over a year and felt little inclination to do so, but given my daughter Isabella's request, I knew it was imperative. Isabella, or Bella as we affectionately call her, was resolute, her voice carrying an unusual tremor of urgency that I couldn't ignore. I settled into my cherished green Mustang Shelby GT 500, the throaty roar of its engine a familiar comfort, and commenced the journey back towards the city center. Navigating the congested motorways consumed almost an hour before I finally arrived at the city's main medical center, a sprawling complex of glass and concrete, where Bella had brought her mother. I secured a spot in the visitor parking area, the metallic tang of exhaust fumes mingling with the antiseptic scent of the hospital, hoping my stay would be brief. Upon contacting the information desk, I learned my former wife, Eleanor, had been hospitalized for 2 days. A rather brisk nurse, Brenda, greeted me with a courteous smile, her name tag gleaming under the fluorescent lights, escorted me to her room, and informed me I could enter and wait, but Eleanor was still asleep. With Brenda, I inquired, "Your wife?" Brenda began, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. "Ex-wife," I clarified, a slight smirk playing on my lips, very much an ex-wife. The ex is perhaps the most crucial part. Brenda reciprocated the smile, though her demeanor swiftly changed to one of professional curiosity. "Dad, are you genuinely flirting with the nurse while Mom is in the hospital?" My daughter interjected from behind me, her arms crossed. "Of course not, Bella," I replied, feigning innocence. "If I were truly flirting, you'd be well aware. My game is far more subtle and far more effective." I glanced back at the nurse, whose name tag now read Brenda clearly. "Oh, that's fitting, isn't it?" I mused aloud, adding a playful Highland lilt that broadened Brenda's smile, a genuine sparkle in her blue eyes. "Doesn't it signify something like lovely or beautiful in Scottish or perhaps Irish? As in, she's a fine lass." "Are you referring to me?" she inquired, a blush creeping up her neck. "Indeed, I am," I affirmed, my gaze unwavering. "It truly suits you, just as I said." At that moment, my daughter chose to interrupt our light-hearted exchange, a look of exasperation on her face, and guided me into her mother's room. The room, equipped with 4 beds, each separated by thin, privacy curtains that offered little real seclusion, was quite possibly the most desolate space I had ever encountered, permeated by the institutional smell of disinfectant and stale air. "It's dreadful in here, isn't it?" Bella asked, her voice hushed. I merely shrugged, my eyes scanning the worn linoleum floor and the chipped paint on the walls. "How would I know?" I responded. "I have nothing to compare it to. Not my usual 5-star accommodations." "Dad, this is the general ward," Bella clarified, her tone laced with a hint of accusation. "They cram as many beds in here as they possibly can. It's often noisy, sometimes it smells, and Mom deserves better. Far better than this." I shrugged once more, feeling a familiar tightness in my chest. "Dad, she's only here because she lacks health insurance. David can't include her on his plan. The only person who could is." Her voice trailed off, her gaze fixed on me, pleading. I looked around, raising my palms in a gesture of feigned ignorance. "Who?" I asked, though I knew precisely what she was implying. "I'm retired. I'm a consultant, offering advice when needed." The company extended a plan, so I accepted it. A modest one, of course. "You could put Mom on your health plan," she stated softly, almost a whisper. "Bella, sweetheart, I adore you more than anything. I do almost anything for you, but you must grasp that your mother and I are divorced. I fulfilled every obligation the judge stipulated when we signed those documents. I even secured a loan to provide her with a check, ensuring she received every single penny owed to her." I explained, my voice firm, rehearsed. Bella gazed at me as if suspecting I concealed something, her brow furrowed with doubt. "Honey, how many divorced individuals do you know who received every penny they were entitled to precisely on time? People frequently lament missed alimony or child support payments, don't they? I never missed a single one. I gave your mother what she was owed, but not everything she desired," she murmured, a hint of bitterness in her tone. We stood at the foot of the bed, observing the sleeping woman, her face pale against the stark white pillow. "You know, she never wanted a divorce, did she?" Bella quietly questioned, her voice barely audible. "She still cares for you, after everything. After all the pain." "Bella, darling, people in Tartarus yearn for ice." I retorted sharply, a cutting edge to my voice, but they remained there due to the choices they made. "Your mother and I are separated because of her actions during our marriage. Her choices, not mine." "I know what she did," Bella affirmed, her eyes flashing with a flicker of old pain. "I was present when everything surfaced, remember? And I acknowledge she was wrong. But I can't shake the conviction that you two are still meant to be together. Dad, she loves you so profoundly. Just observe her. She's deteriorating. These past 2 years, she doesn't appear 50 at all. 2 years ago, at 48, she could easily pass for 30. Now, she looks like she's in her 60s, ravaged by something more than just age. Some individuals simply don't age gracefully," I said coolly, my gaze fixed on the ceiling. "Perhaps she needs to prioritize her self-care if she's allowing herself to decline like this. It's not my responsibility anymore." "What do you anticipate, Dad?" "She needs her husband back," Bella blurted out, her voice rising with frustration. "She needs to feel cherished and cared for. That's why she's so utterly drained, so broken." "Is that why you roused me from bed?" I asked, feigning surprise, a sarcastic curl to my lips. "So I could procure her a husband? A replacement? Is that my new role? Where's your empathy, Dad? Do you have any left?" Bella pressed, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Is this what you wish to witness? The woman you swore to love, respect, and cherish, reduced to this, merely so you could feel triumphant, so you could finally win. Bella, you grasp nothing about compassion. I stated sternly, my voice dangerously low. Consider what you're uttering and about whom you're speaking. I tolerated her behavior for years and remained married to her. I extended countless opportunities, but she simply couldn't change. And don't forget, your loyalty to her nearly jeopardized your own marriage. It almost cost you everything. Bella closed her eyes and nodded reflectively, the weight of my words settling upon her. At least 3 families were almost fractured, all teetering on the brink due to the self-centeredness of 2 unfaithful individuals. I added, a bitter taste in my mouth. Perhaps they're truly meant for each other. I allowed a small, wry smile, and Bella's eyes widened in horror. Dad, you don't mean that, she protested, her voice a desperate plea. I shrugged, looking at her with a faint grin that didn't reach my eyes. You're also aging, you know, she remarked, changing tack, attempting to wound me. Dad, don't you desire more from life than just speeding around in that car, constant travel, and dating a new person every week? I responded with another shrug and raised palms, a carefully constructed mask of indifference. I adore my car. Mustangs have always been my passion, my escape, I stated. I also relish traveling. And regarding the girl of the week, I've been seeing Sky for nearly a year now. I do have a particular fondness for redheads. Besides, you introduced us. Remember? But, Dad, she said tearfully, her voice cracking, don't you desire someone with whom to share your life for the long term? A lasting companion. Been there, done that. I retorted sharply, the old wounds aching anew. I truly believed I had found my soulmate. I loved her so profoundly, enough to swallow my pride and attempt to salvage things, even after uncovering her infidelity. Yet, she simply couldn't relinquish it. The habit, the thrill, whatever it was, held her captive. Dad, some women are capable of loving 2 men simultaneously, Bella suggested, grasping at straws. And some men can accept that. I countered, my voice flat. The issue is, I am not one of those men. My heart is not built for such division. Why am I even here, Dad? I've been here since we admitted her, Bella said, her exhaustion evident. I needed a respite to go home, shower, and change. I want to see my husband, David, too. He was wonderful. He sat with her for a few hours yesterday, so I could rest, but I can't ask him to do that again. You know, he doesn't genuinely care for her. They were fine until I left things unresolved, until her constant presence became a burden. Perhaps he doesn't dislike her. Perhaps he's just afraid that spending too much time with her will alter you, and he loves you so much. I offered, a subtle hint of truth in my words. So, do you truly love me, Daddy? She asked, her eyes searching mine for honesty. I always have, and always will, my angel, I affirmed, my voice softening only for her. Then why can't you be kinder to Mom? For my sake? She pleaded, a desperate appeal. Why can't you just be compassionate toward her, even a little? Because sometimes I cannot locate my heart, I stated harshly, the words burning on my tongue. She tore it out while it was still beating. She ripped it to shreds and then left me to bleed. Bella's eyes widened at the raw fury in my voice, a rare glimpse into the depths of my pain. I love her, Bella. I love her for longer than you've been alive. During those years together, I forced myself to maintain composure. I choked down the bile of betrayal every single day. No, Bella, I cannot be friends with her. I cannot move past it. There's no burying the hatchet, unless it's buried in her forehead. Figuratively speaking, of course. I don't even know why I'm here now, Dad. Have you found your closure? She asked, a weariness settling into her voice. You've already shattered her spirit. What else do you require? What more can you take? Bella, I did not seek vengeance on your mother. I declared, my voice cold, precise. I simply walked away. I just departed. I removed myself from the toxicity. I know, Dad, she said, her voice small, but I still don't grasp it. So many things haven't made sense these past 2 years since the divorce. So many things I can't comprehend. The pieces don't fit. Like what? I prompted, my curiosity piqued. We divided everything equally, except for the house. It just doesn't add up, she explained, her brow furrowed. Mom didn't need all these possessions. She simply desired you, and it seemed like you should have possessed more financial resources than you did. Mom's lawyer even reviewed our finances, and still, things seemed off. I shrugged, maintaining my carefully constructed facade. So, why are you driving a customized Mustang that my husband estimates costs at least $50,000 when Mom can't even afford a car, let alone health insurance? She inquired, her gaze fixed on me, try to pierce my composure. Perhaps I have superior credit. I offered, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching my lips. Anyway, I'll remain here and play games on my tablet while she rests for a bit. I'll give you a break, sweetheart. If she awakens, I'll call you immediately. What's the purpose? Handle it, Dad. Mom has been diagnosed with severe depression. She's on medication for it. For some reason, she consumed all her pills at once. We had to pump her stomach. She wasn't eating well and was drinking excessively. She's exhausted and dehydrated, and we still don't know if it was accidental or intentional, Bella revealed, her voice cracking with the strain of the confession. So, she probably won't wake up, right? I asked, a chilling smirk playing on my lips, though I quickly masked it. That's correct, Bella confirmed, her voice barely a whisper. But, Dad, if she does, please be kind to her for me, okay? Just a little kindness. Okay, Bella. I acknowledged, my voice flat. She kissed my cheek, a soft, brief touch, and departed, leaving behind the faint scent of her perfume. I settled into the uncomfortable chair beside the bed and retrieved my tablet. I began to read, but quickly lost concentration, my thoughts drifting back to how it all unfolded 2 years prior, and indeed, long before that. We performed peculiar acts for our offspring. When Bella was a child, she constantly attempted to cook, combining all manner of different sweets in unidentifiable concoctions. I adore my daughter more than anything on this planet, so regardless of what she concocted, I would consume it and declare it the finest thing I had ever tasted, my face contorted in a grimace of false delight. I remember the occasion she invited her mother and me for dinner. We enjoyed a pleasant evening, even though Bella still wasn't a very skilled cook. The roast was as arid as the Atacama Desert, demanding copious amounts of gravy. I suspected David was aware of this too, as he kept refilling my drink whenever it was half empty, a silent, knowing gesture of commiseration. It's fortunate I'm not a heavy drinker, or that roast might have converted me into one. It was a delightful family evening, the kind you wish could endure eternally, filled with warmth and laughter. I spent time with my grandson, Arthur, Bella's 2-year-old, whom she and David had named after me. He was a mischievous little boy, a tiny whirlwind of energy, but in his grandpa's eyes, he could do no wrong. The highlight of the evening was when Bella and David announced that she was expecting again. David, what are you doing to my daughter to maintain this pace? I quipped playfully, a genuine smile on my face. We conversed about the customary topics when a baby is on the way. Everything appeared idyllic, bathed in the glow of anticipated happiness. We even deliberated potential names. If it was a girl, we all concurred on Elizabeth after David's mother. I proposed Peter for a boy after David's father, which he appreciated. Then, everything changed. You already have one grandchild named after you, darling, Eleanor remarked, her voice a little too casual, A little too saccharine. Why not permit someone else that honor for this one? Share the glory. What do you mean? I joked, a cold knot forming in my stomach. Let me guess. You wish to name them Eleanor if it's a girl, and Eric if it's a boy, correct? You've always been so predictable. Actually, I was contemplating Raymond, she stated, her gaze fixed on me, a defiant glint in her eyes. We could call him Ray, for short. Raymond James Dillon sounds like a strong name. Doesn't it have a certain gravitas? Suddenly, a palpable chill permeated the room, the laughter dying on our lips. Bella turned and looked at me, sensing the shift. I don't know. I don't like it, she confessed, her voice hesitant. I prefer Dad's suggestion. Don't you, David? David, still smiling at the thought of his father's joy, hadn't registered my reaction. He simply nodded, oblivious to the impending storm. Eleanor reached out for my hand, as she frequently did, a habitual gesture of affection, and I recoiled with almost excessive force, as if burned. Bella hadn't noticed my expression, still focused on the baby talk. What do you think, Dad? She inquired, unknowingly stepping into a minefield. In the iciest tone I had ever used with her, a voice devoid of all warmth, I replied, I think if you use that name, it will be just as monumental a mistake as what your mother just did. You know those scenes in films or on television where everyone is reveling, music is playing, and abruptly someone acts in a way that brings everything to a screeching halt? It felt precisely like that moment, complete with the imagined sound of a needle scratching a record. For what seemed like an eternity, but was truly only a few seconds, there was absolute silence, thick with unspoken accusations. David eventually broke it, attempting to be diplomatic, his face a mask of discomfort. He glanced at his watch and declared, Wow, I genuinely need to get to bed. I have an early meeting tomorrow. A very important one. Thanks for the evening, David, I said, my voice carefully neutral. Love you, Bella. I rose and headed for the door, my movements stiff, deliberate. As I opened it, Bella called after me, her voice laced with confusion. Dad, what's wrong with you? Are you forgetting something? Hug me, Bella, I said, pulling her into a tight embrace, burying my face in her hair. I need to leave. I can't breathe in here. I meant Mom. She laughed, a nervous, brittle sound. I thought you didn't drink, David. What have you been giving my dad all night? It was just soda. Honey, I clarified, my gaze fixed on Eleanor, who had risen, her face pale. Although I could use something stronger now. Much stronger. What's happening, Julian? Eleanor said, approaching, her voice wavering. She reached out again, her hand extended, and this time I recoiled so conspicuously that everyone noticed, David flinching slightly. We'll discuss it at home, sweetheart, she stated, attempting to regain control. No, we won't, I asserted sharply, my voice like ice. I'm returning to my own house. I don't know what you'll do or where you'll go, but it won't be with me. Not ever again. Wait, Dad, Bella interjected, her eyes wide with alarm. Are you upset with Mom about the name? Is that all this is about? Eleanor's eyes widened as she grasped that I knew, the blood draining from her face. No, sweetheart, I said, my voice eerily calm. I'm neither upset nor angry. I'm merely awakened to reality. Sometimes the individuals you love wound you, and you endure it. You remain silent, hoping that if you just wait it out, everything will improve. But then something transpires that makes you realize it was all in vain. Some things cannot be overlooked, cannot be forgiven. Everyone stared at me, dumbfounded, except Eleanor. She already understood my meaning, her shoulders slumping in defeat. Dad, you're not making sense, Bella stated, her voice trembling. Bella, your mother desires to name my grandson after the man she adored for the past 15 years, the man with whom she had an affair. She discovered a few days ago that he passed away. Now, she's attempting to perpetuate his memory through my grandson. She's desecrating my family with his ghost. Both Bella and David turned their gaze to Eleanor, who had quietly collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, her face buried in her hands. "I'm so profoundly sorry, Julian," she wept, her voice muffled by her despair. "It's over. It concluded more than 5 years ago. I tried to be a better wife to you." "Why did it end, Eleanor?" I inquired, my voice devoid of emotion. "Because I felt guilty," she confessed, looking up, her face streaked with tears. "I knew it was wrong, so I ceased. I found my conscience. Can we discuss this?" "First of all, it wasn't a full-blown affair. We only met once a year, and it wasn't always physical. And whenever I returned home, you and I always shared the most wonderful moments together. It ended a long time ago. I love you, Julian. We need to discuss this. You don't fully comprehend. It's not as terrible as it seems. It's worse than you think, Eleanor." I countered sharply, a sardonic laugh escaping my lips. "Perhaps after the divorce is finalized, you'll finally be truthful. I am finished with your falsehoods. Every single one." "What are you implying?" she asked, her voice tight with fear. "I confess, Eleanor, if you could, you would still be seeing him," I declared, my eyes boring into hers. "I told you I ended it," she retorted, her voice rising, a flash of her old defiance. "And yet you're lying again," I stated, a chilling calm in my tone. "Finished with what?" she inquired, dread creeping in her voice. "I traveled to Brighton and encountered him 5 years ago," I revealed, watching her face crumble. "I assaulted him so severely that he ended up in the hospital. Before you boarded your flight, I confiscated his phone and perused all your messages. I might utilize them as evidence. I also ensured he knew precisely who I was and warned him that if he ever approached you again, it would be his last day on earth. I even threatened to inform his wife about your relationship. I told him that if he ever reached out to you again, even as a friend, I would return. That's why it ended. Because I made it end. Not your guilt. Eleanor, I did end it, Julian. I'm sorry," she pleaded, her voice a desperate wail. "I was mistaken, confused. It was an error. A terrible, terrible mistake. I'm sorry too, Eleanor," I replied, my voice hardening. "I was also mistaken. I was confused. I made an error by attempting to preserve this fractured marriage. I did it for Bella, so she wouldn't have to endure our divorce while she was still young. I believed that, over time, because I loved you so much, we might transcend this. I was wrong. Instead of ending it then, I forced it to function. But you were correct about one thing. You did end something. From the moment you uttered his name that night, our marriage was over. Completely and utterly. I vacated the house, the silence deafening, entered my car, and drove off. I spent hours simply driving. The roar of my Mustang and the thrill of speeding down dark, moonlit roads dulled some of the pain, a primal scream of liberation. I powered off my phone to avoid any interruptions, any pleas, any attempts at reconciliation. Oddly, I wasn't as devastated as I might have anticipated. I had been aware of her behavior for over 5 years and had been preparing for this moment ever since, fortifying myself against the inevitable. In many respects, the most astonishing revelation for Eleanor was realizing that I had known about her deception all this time, and secondly, that she only discovered that night why it had ceased. She had flown to Brighton for a professional conference, the same one she attended annually. She reserved a room at her customary hotel, a sterile, anonymous space. The conference was a single-day workshop, though she always informed me it spanned 2 days, an extra day for Raymond. After the event, she dined with Raymond. They remained at the restaurant conversing until it closed, lingering over empty coffee cups, and she even mentioned me a couple of times, perhaps to assuage her guilt. After the restaurant closed, they shared a light kiss, a fleeting moment of illicit passion, and she returned to her room. Raymond walked to the parking area to retrieve his car. When he arrived, I was seated on the hood, waiting. "Hey, this is my car," he stated, his voice wary. "Apologies," I said, a slow, predatory smile spreading across my face. "It's wrong to touch things that don't belong to you, isn't it, Ray?" "I couldn't agree more," he replied, a hint of unease in his tone. "Is that one of my hubcaps?" "Yes," I said with a smile, tossing it lightly in my hand. "I took it myself. A souvenir. But let's not discuss hubcaps, Ray. Let's talk about Martha, your wife, who's waiting for you at home on Cedar Lane. It's probably too late for me to visit her now. Perhaps I'll see her tomorrow. A little chat about your extracurricular activities." "I'm contacting the authorities," Raymond declared, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and bravado. I produced my phone and held it out to him. "Go ahead, Ray. It'll be my word against yours, and you'll lose, because somehow it'll emerge that you were spending time with my wife, Eleanor, while your faithful wife waited for you at home. I have a way of making inconvenient truths surface." Ray's face turned ashen, all color draining from it. "I'm not that kind of guy," I said, watching him closely. "I think you're mistaken," he countered, trying to regain some composure. "I do know Eleanor, but we haven't been spending time together." He peered into my eyes and saw that I was serious, dead serious. "Okay, we had dinner tonight. We were discussing intriguing points from the conference and simply lost track of time. But that's all. Nothing else transpired. I swear." "Phew," I said, a theatrical sigh of relief. "You genuinely frightened me there." He offered a faint, relieved smile, thinking he had escaped. Then I struck him as forcefully as I could, a punch fueled by years of silent rage. He collapsed like a bowling pin. He rose, groaning, and attempted to flee, so I flung his hubcap at his feet. He tripped over it and fell again, a pathetic heap on the asphalt. When I was finished, both of Ray's eyes were swollen shut, his nose was fractured, and his lip was split, a grotesque mask of pain. "You truly scared me, Ray," I said, leaning over him, my voice a low growl. "For a moment, I thought I couldn't go through with it. I know you only had dinner tonight, but what about last year or the year before? How long has this been going on? Be honest, because I already know." "Perhaps 15 or 20 years, he mumbled, his words barely audible through his swollen lips, a defeated confession. "It's over now, Ray," I declare, my voice cold, final. He nodded quickly, frantically. "If you ever utter her name again, if you so much as think of her, I will ruin your marriage and your life. Do we comprehend each other? This is not a negotiation." He nodded again, tears welling in his good eye. "Don't visit her," I continued, listing my demands. "No texts, no calls. No secret meetings. There will be no more warnings. This is it." "I understand," he said, his voice a broken croak. "Ray, next time we speak, it won't be so civil," I added, my final threat hanging in the air. It seemed to have yielded results. When I arrived home, Eleanor was behaving as usual, perhaps a little more attentive, a little more guilty. After the conference, she tried to compensate with intimacy, a desperate attempt to reconnect, but I didn't yield. Normally, we would vacation together after the conference, a ritual she enjoyed, but this year I feigned excessive busyness, citing an urgent project. Despite my endeavors, I couldn't shake off what had transpired. Most of my thoughts were consumed by rage, a burning inferno in my gut. Now, for those unfamiliar, there's a heavy metal band named Iron Fury. Their finest album is screaming for retribution, and that's precisely how I felt. No matter how diligently I tried, I couldn't calm down. I yearned for recompense. I wanted someone to suffer for the pain I'd endured. If misery cherishes company, then I absolutely desired someone else to experience it too, and that individual was Raymond. Through certain business connections, whispers exchanged over golf courses and expensive dinners, I orchestrated his dismissal. I didn't make it obvious, didn't let him know it was me, but it felt gratifying to know it was accomplished. A quiet, satisfying triumph. I harbored no regret. It provided me with the same twisted satisfaction as doing something beneficial for Eleanor while covertly undermining Raymond. I had dedicated the last 5 years of my life to precisely that. Concurrently, I knew a divorce from Eleanor was unavoidable. The clock was ticking. Why didn't I simply confront her and initiate divorce proceedings then? Despite everything, I still cherished her. Deep down, I yearned to believe her and grant her another opportunity. But my mind, much like at work, instructed me to prepare for any eventuality, to build a fortress of financial security. I informed Eleanor there was a pay freeze at work when, in reality, I had received a promotion. After a few months, I secured another promotion I had been striving for over the past decade, a major leap in my career. I didn't disclose to Eleanor that my salary had nearly doubled. I transferred most of the additional income into accounts she was unaware of, hidden in plain sight, or in accounts offshore. 2 years later, I obtained another promotion and another raise. Again, I said nothing to Eleanor, allowing her to believe my financial standing was stagnant. The rationale behind all this secrecy was that if we divorced, she wouldn't have the slightest inkling of my true income. She would believe I was still earning $40,000 annually, and the divorce settlement would be predicated on that figure, a mere fraction of my true worth. And yes, I am aware that all legal experts out there will assert there's no way I could escape this without repercussions. A competent lawyer would request my tax returns and consult HR about my salary. The truth is, my boss was devastated by his own messy divorce and had no qualms assisting me. In the company records, I was listed as a middle manager. No one questioned it. All other managers reported to me, and I reported directly to them, which seemed normal enough on paper. 3/4 of my actual salary was regularly paid to a company that appeared to be one of our suppliers. I was neither a director nor did I own it. The directors were all my fishing companions, men I trusted implicitly. In exchange for utilizing their names, I would take them fishing a couple of times a year, lavish trips on my yacht. They were all designated as volunteers, so there were no tax implications for them. The money went directly into my offshore account, untraceable, a ghost in the financial system. Subsequently, there were a few instances when I withdrew funds. Once, after Bella and David married, I made a substantial down payment on their house to help them commence their life with less financial burden, a generous act that also served my purpose. I didn't purchase the house outright, but I contributed sufficiently to keep their mortgage under $100 a month. Another time, I bought Bella and David a second car since they worked in different parts of town, which simplified their lives, a thoughtful gesture. But even when presenting gifts to the children, I had to exercise caution, ensuring the paper trail led elsewhere. The manner in which I was able to assist them with the house and the car actually benefited me and permitted me to provide Eleanor with even less. The funds for their house were purportedly from my pension fund. This way, if we divorced, Eleanor would believe I possessed almost no retirement savings to claim, a meager sum easily exhausted. The money for the car originated from a loan, further diminishing my disposable income, so Eleanor would receive even less in the settlement. One of the most advantageous aspects of my situation was that Raymond worked in production, specializing in casting inspection. My company was a manufacturing enterprise with facilities across the nation. I had a private investigator friend who resided in Brighton. I requested him to monitor Raymond to be my eyes and ears. Every time he secured a job, I would inform one of our account managers, a casual conversation over coffee. If we maintained an account with the company he worked for, one of my friends would have lunch with someone there, and Raymond would be terminated. A quiet word, a subtle suggestion, and his career would unravel. If not, we would establish an account, often a small, token one, and then he would be terminated regardless. I maintained a spreadsheet on my computer specifically dedicated to tracking Raymond and all his misfortunes, a meticulous chronicle of his downfall. Sometimes I didn't even need to intervene. Over time, Ray's reputation within the manufacturing sector deteriorated to such an extent that he couldn't even secure an interview, his name synonymous with trouble. Before he passed away, Ray's last jobs were in landscaping or as a day laborer, the work of a man without options. His struggles placed a significant strain on his marriage. His wife returned to work to help support their family, sacrificing her own comfort. I never interfered with her career because I had no issues with her. She was an innocent bystander. I also ensured Ray's children received what they deserved, quietly, anonymously. I single-handedly assisted his daughter in gaining admission to law school, creating a scholarship exclusively for her and awarding it to her. The scholarship concluded the year she graduated, and she never discovered who financed it. Her grades were excellent, and she received multiple bonuses from her unknown benefactor during her studies, funds that eased her path. Ray's inability to provide for his family and his minimal contributions took a heavy toll on his pride. He was a dignified man who desired to be self-sufficient and care for his family. So realizing he couldn't was a major blow, crushing his spirit. He resorted to drinking, a desperate escape, and it eventually consumed him. Despite that, he never became violent or aggressive towards his wife or daughter. But by the end of his life, he was merely a shadow of his former self, a ghost haunting his own existence. I also pondered how my actions had transformed me. I was no longer the individual I had been when I first uncovered my wife's infidelity. I used to be composed and amiable, candid and sincere, but learning that the woman I loved had repeatedly betrayed me shook me to my core, fracturing my very essence. When I gazed in the mirror, I did not perceive a callous person who reveled in systematically dismantling another man's life over a singular mistake. I still saw myself, Julian Croft, the benevolent family man. Shouldn't antagonists bear telltale signs? In the past, they all donned black hats. Perhaps I should exchange my Mustang for a black one, a more fitting color for my new reality. Yet, even as I entertained these thoughts, I persevered. I couldn't halt. My broken heart craved vengeance more than it longed for healing. My soul demanded retribution far more than it desired forgiveness. As I observed Ray's life crumble, I also kept a close watch on Eleanor. I realized I could no longer trust her. It's a dreadful sensation to lose faith in the woman you promised to love and cherish eternally. But that's what her association with Raymond did to me. It shattered not just our marriage, but also my capacity to fully trust anyone, leaving me hollowed out. So, for 5 years, while I was silently pushing Raymond downwards, I was also observing Eleanor and preparing for our divorce, a meticulously planned escape. Unlike most men who have only a few days or weeks to safeguard their assets, I had 5 years to get ready, to construct my financial fortress. Initially, I planned for more. Despite everything, Eleanor was still attractive, though that was beginning to wane, time slowly eroding her youthful appeal. When we divorced, I intended to wait until she had completely declined, but Raymond didn't endure as long as I had anticipated. Over those 5 years, I concealed and saved as much money as possible, diverting funds, rerouting salaries, creating an elaborate web of financial deception. I didn't concern myself with the house we inhabited because it didn't belong to us. It had been in my parents' family for generations, a legacy immune to our divorce. We resided there because my parents, who were still alive and well, didn't require such a large house, preferring a smaller, more manageable home. When the divorce occurred, I ensured the lawyers understood that my parents owned the house and permitted us to live there rent-free, a generous allowance that could be withdrawn at any time. When Eleanor returned from the conference, blissfully unaware of my actions, she sent Raymond a message expressing how much she enjoyed their dinner and how marvelous it was to kiss him. She mentioned missing the times they had been intimate, but was relieved they hadn't been this time. She felt guilty for deceiving me, just as he probably felt guilty toward his wife. She informed him that their current relationship, romantic without physical intimacy, was superior this way. They could enjoy it for the remainder of their lives without guilt, a pure, platonic love, or so she convinced herself. Perhaps they were maturing and no longer required physical affection. Simply being together was sufficient, and in this manner, they could be together forever. She concluded with, "Until next year, my love." I read that message while awaiting my luggage at the airport, my fingers itching to crush the phone. The urge to strangle Eleanor was overwhelming, and although I still harbored some affection for her, buried deep beneath layers of anger, my feelings had dramatically shifted. Maintaining control became increasingly difficult. When Eleanor arrived home, I was seated in the living room watching a football game, a deliberate performance of normalcy. She approached to hug and kiss me, but I pulled back, asserting I had a cold and wished not to spread it, a flimsy excuse. "Just ensure we're both well by this weekend," she said, smiling, her face expectant. "Why? What's happening this weekend?" I inquired, feigning ignorance. "We're going on our vacation, remember?" She reminded me, a hint of impatience in her voice. "We always go after my tedious conference, our annual escape. Perhaps we could take a mother-daughter trip this year." I suggested, my voice even. "I genuinely cannot take time off work. Too much on my plate." "But it's just the weekend," she argued, trying to persuade me. "You'd only need to miss 2 days. Consider it. 4 nights, 3 days in a tropical resort, just us. We might not even leave the hotel suite." I acquired many items you'll appreciate. I wondered how many of those items Raymond would have witnessed had they met sooner. A chilling thought. "Eleanor, there's a wage freeze at work, and they're seeking every possible means to reduce costs. I need to ensure they don't perceive me as an unnecessary expense." I explained, a believable lie. "I understand," she said, her shoulders slumping in disappointment. "I'll call Bella. Be in the bedroom 10 minutes after I go upstairs." She ascended the stairs, and I heard her conversing on the phone with Bella, her voice animated. Concurrently, she sent Raymond another message, inquiring if he had received her previous one, a desperate attempt at contact. It disgusted me, the blatant disregard. When I didn't proceed to the bedroom, she came searching for me, but I feigned sleep on the sofa, a silent protest. Over the subsequent few weeks, I regained my composure. It was akin to a grand performance, and I became a more proficient actor than I had ever imagined, playing the part of the slightly distant but still loving husband. We continued regular intimacy. I'm uncertain if Eleanor enjoyed it as much, but I certainly did not. I no longer needed to concentrate on her because I no longer cared. I had to fundamentally alter my perspective. Instead of viewing Eleanor as my wife whom I loved, I began to perceive her merely as someone with whom I had physical relations. It was convenient, and she was available. Our interactions became rougher and less tender, yet also more audacious, a strange perversion of intimacy. Eleanor had always been quite reserved regarding intimacy. During the period of guilt that followed her conference, when she needed to convince me that she was mine, she rarely refused me, a desperate attempt at redemption. The following year, as the conference approached, I observed her closely for indications that she had contacted Raymond. I checked her phone account online to ensure there were no calls from Brighton, no telltale signs. While there were no calls, she had sent several messages to his phone, plaintive, almost pleading. She became increasingly agitated when Raymond didn't respond. She even reached out to mutual friends who informed her he behaved as if he didn't remember her, a cruel but necessary charade. The truth was, he did remember, but he was terrified. He knew that if he responded, I would either harm him or, worse, inform his wife and ruin his life. "So, you comprehend it's over," she said with a smile of forced. Brittle thing, trying to convince herself. "How do I know?" I asked, my voice chillingly calm. 5 years ago, you told him your love would endure until one of you perished. Well, that was only 5 years ago, and now he's gone. But perhaps you meant it. You loved him enough to attempt to have Bella name my grandson after him, even if it cost our marriage. Is that not love, Eleanor? No, Julian, you don't understand, she insisted, her voice rising in frustration. You chose to wound me instead. Julian, how were you wounded? This persisted for over 20 years. In that time, you and I probably were together over 2,000 times, and I cherished every moment. With Raymond, there were at most 8 encounters, and they were all dreadful. If I had prioritized Raymond above you, I would comprehend the pain, but that never occurred. If I gave you anything less than my complete self or embarrassed you, I would comprehend, but I didn't. I loved you too much for that. It was a once-a-year occurrence, far from home, where no one would know us. No shame for you. Even the year you confronted Ray and ended it, we had already agreed at dinner that it was preferable not to continue being physical, just to enjoy each other's company. This would have ended on its own. I wasn't going to meet him again in that manner. When I stated it was better without guilt, that's what I implied. I was going to gently release him. Next year, I wouldn't have met him at all. I would have changed my number, and it would have been over. No one would ever know. Just like when you attend automotive shows and models pose with your Mustang. It's merely a pleasant memory in our old age. You attacked an innocent man for no reason, Julian. He wasn't a threat to us, only to your pride. I wish to name our grandson after Raymond, not because I was enamored with him, but to honor a special friend. A single tear streamed down Eleanor's cheek, a perfectly timed drop. I clapped slowly, deliberately. Excellent performance, Eleanor. I remarked, a sardonic smirk. You must have practiced this while we were apart. Bella, name the boy Raymond James if you wish. Raymond James David sounds like a strong name. It would make your mother happy. Make her proud. Bella looked at me, shocked, confused by my sudden shift. Dad, we're naming him Marshall, after David's grandfather. Marshall David, that's his name. I won't name my son after that man. No matter what Mom thinks, Bella stated firmly, her loyalty now clearly with me. Well, at least now you understand, Eleanor said, defeated. I wish you did, Eleanor, I replied, the bitterness returning. It hurt because I loved you more than anyone. I loved you too much to share you with someone else. It hurt because, despite your claims, when a married woman sleeps with another man, she's rejecting her marriage. Some say one mistake isn't enough to dissolve a marriage, but I disagree, and this wasn't just a single instance. You had an ongoing affair for years. You lied, misled me, and violated our vows. Even now, I can't fully trust you. I still monitor you to ensure you adhere to your word. You've damaged our marriage in ways that haven't fully surfaced, scars that run deep. Eleanor, how long have I possessed the Mustang I drive now? And what's distinctive about it? I inquired, changing the subject abruptly, a cruel game. It has more horsepower, she replied, hesitant. Anything else? I pressed, leaning forward, my gaze unwavering. She looked perplexed, searching her memory. You've never ridden in it. I stated sharply, the words a hammer blow. I've owned that car for nearly 4 years, and you've never sat in it. When we go out, we use your car or the SUV. I don't trust you, and I don't want you in my car, just as I don't want you in my heart. You're not welcome there. Eleanor began to weep, deep, racking sobs. What can I do to rectify this? It's been 5 years since it ended. Isn't that sufficient, Julian? Haven't I paid enough? Let's be fair, I suggested, a chilling proposition. What if I started seeing someone periodically for the next 20 or 30 years? Would that balance the scales? Julian, I wouldn't like that. 2 wrongs don't make a right, she snapped, her voice trembling with indignation. I didn't think you would, Eleanor, I said, a cold satisfaction in my voice. There's a card on the table with my lawyer's contact information. Pass it to your next boyfriend. Try to find someone soon so this doesn't protract longer than necessary. I want this done. Julian, I don't desire a divorce, she cried, a desperate plea. It's been 5 years. Bella, get her out of here before I do something I'll regret. I commanded, my voice laced with a threat. Bella took her mother's hand and guided her out, the door closing softly behind them. In the days that followed, Eleanor made every effort to communicate with me, often with Bella and David acting as intermediaries, as I no longer wished to speak with her. Her calls went unanswered, her messages unread. I tried to convey to Eleanor that she had had her opportunity to speak, but I remained steadfast, unyielding. Neither of us realized her staying with Bella and David was affecting their relationship, creating a toxic atmosphere. Eleanor frequently cried, leaning heavily on Bella, who supported her, sacrificing her own peace for her mother's grief. After weeks, this influence began to manifest, and Bella even alluded to it, her patience wearing thin. At a dinner with Bella and David, I explained that even though Eleanor and I were separating, my relationship with them wouldn't change. I'd still visit, and we'd spend time together without having to choose sides or worry about upsetting anyone. Dad, is there truly no way you and Mom can resolve things? Bella asked, her voice laced with hope and exhaustion. I don't believe so, I replied, shaking my head. Why, Dad? Mom loves you. She didn't do it frequently, and it wasn't with people you knew. You even confronted that man. On average, it was less than once a year. Can't you just— That's enough, Bella. David interrupted sharply, his voice booming unexpectedly. David, usually quiet and reserved, was resolute this time, his patience clearly at an end. What if it was me? What if I cheated with my assistant occasionally, not daily, perhaps once a month or less? Would it sting any less if you discovered it when we were 50? Would it make it acceptable? Would you forgive me? Bella looked at him seriously, her eyes wide with shock. You don't do that, do you? She asked, a sudden fear gripping her. She's younger and attractive, David stated, his eyes holding hers. I was attractive until I had your children. Bella retorted, tears welling. So, because I'm not as slender, you'd cheat with Tina? Is that what you're implying? Bella, one day she won't be beautiful either, and I'll be faithful again, David said, his voice flat, his point made. Bella's eyes brimmed with tears, the realization hitting her hard. Bella, I'm sorry. I love you and have never cheated on you. You're still the most beautiful woman to me, but I needed you to understand how your dad feels. It's worse for him because it endured for so long. It was a betrayal over years, not a moment. I'm sorry, Dad, Bella said, turning to me, a newfound understanding in her eyes. I listened to Mom too much. She convinced me it wasn't that bad, and I wanted to console her. Your dad even gave her a second chance when he ended the affair. He didn't punish her or make her feel guilty, but she couldn't let go of her feelings. Can you imagine naming your grandson after the man your wife cheated with? Your mom either doesn't respect your dad or thinks he's naive, David added, shaking his head. Suggesting that name was insulting. I think your dad is justified. Eleanor fiercely contested the divorce. She attempted to outmaneuver everyone and called me at work, stating she'd found her lawyer and would bring his contact information, stopping by before her date that evening. Eleanor, you don't have to do this, I said, my voice bored. Why interrupt your evening? Just provide your lawyer with my contact information. Email it. I don't have it with me, she replied, a flimsy excuse. I just remembered to call. I'm at the salon getting ready. I'll do it when I get home. Should I inform my lawyer you'll call in about 10 minutes? I inquired, a cruel smile touching my lips. What? You said you're at the salon. You've always been beautiful, Eleanor. They can't improve what's already perfect, I said, dripping with false flattery. I have to go, she replied, her voice choked, likely in tears. Minutes later, my phone rang again. Dad, why do you always make her cry? Isn't divorce sufficient? Isn't her pain enough? Bella asked, her voice tight. Bella, what are you referring to? I questioned, feigning innocence. Mom called, then started crying. I checked and saw the call was from you. I explained the conversation to Bella, who apologized, a sigh of resignation. Dad, she wasn't at the salon or on a date. I think she was trying to make you jealous. Do you truly believe Mom is beautiful? I always thought so, Bella. I confirmed, a flicker of genuine sentiment. Her appearance and personality were what I loved most about your mother. You might not perceive it, but she's genuinely beautiful and captivating. I loved her deeply, which is why I was so enraged at Raymond. He threatened the person who gave my life meaning, the very core of my existence. Then why not give her another chance, Dad? She asked, still clinging to a sliver of hope. I did, honey, and it was the hardest 5 years of my life. Every time she left the house, I questioned where she was going and whom she might be seeing. If she could have an affair across the country, why not nearby, without my knowing? I love her, but I can't trust her. Remember when David joked about sleeping with his assistant? Did you stop thinking about it even after he said it wasn't true? Well, I don't have to wonder. Your mom actually cheated, and it wasn't a one-time occurrence. It persisted for years until I intervened. Without my intervention, she would have continued it indefinitely. Eleanor's lawyer pushed for counseling, and mine insisted I attend, citing court protocol. For the first 2 weeks, I read magazines during the sessions, flipping through glossy pages, completely disengaged. The counselor inquired why I didn't participate, and I informed him it was futile. The court could compel me to attend, but couldn't alter my emotions. No amount of discussion could force me to remain married. It required 8 months, 3 times longer than anticipated, a grueling legal battle. Eleanor's lawyer scrutinized my work records suspiciously, noting how meticulously prepared they were, as if I had foreseen this, a chilling testament to my foresight. He uncovered everything necessary, but overlooked the deeper intricacies, the hidden channels of my true wealth. The judge deemed the house an asset since I didn't pay rent, adding a calculated value to Eleanor's share, a minor setback. I also had to pay $400 in alimony for 3 years, a mere pittance. I gave her a check and claimed it was from a loan, opting for monthly payments to the bank over dealing with her directly. After the divorce, I took my inaugural vacation, a cruise. I kept to myself, sequestered in my cabin and avoiding attention. It was too soon for socializing, for pretending. My second journey was to a ranch in the Western Territories, but there were too many men, and it wasn't the experience I had envisioned, too much cowboy bravado. The final excursion was a road trip dubbed the Freedom Drive, traversing the heritage trail from Springfield to San Ventura, featuring various cars, events, and gatherings along the route, a celebration of automotive passion. I utilized this time to forge a bond with my Mustang, considering it my companion, a loyal, powerful extension of myself. The drive provided me space to contemplate what I desired for the next 20 or 30 years without Eleanor. Even though I knew my life would be improved without her, my heart still ached, a phantom pain. I realized I wasn't merely a lost, solitary divorced man. I was part of a community, thousands of individuals with the same ardent passion for their automobiles. When we converge, it's a distinct experience. Each of us convinced our vehicle is the ultimate masterpiece of automotive artistry. At the commencement of the event, I remained on the periphery during the announcements, observing. I was never alone unless I chose to be. "Hey, pal, your Mustang is magnificent," an elderly gentleman remarked, his eyes gleaming. "I own one before I switched to Stingrays. How much horsepower does it have?" At every stop or meal, people approach me to converse about cars and shared interests, a camaraderie built on shared passion. Some even debated whether foreign cars belonged on the Heritage Trail, their patriotism bubbling over. I would tell them, cars are cars. There's room for everyone. Most concurred, and one elderly man joked that automotive enthusiasts should unite against motorcyclists. I abstained from that conversation, preferring to maintain neutrality. I also encountered some passionate women on the cruise, women who share my zeal. One had divorced her husband when he asserted her classic '69 Comet was his. When friends observed her working on it, he was so humiliated he told her to choose between him and the car. She chose the car, a woman after my own heart. I connected with some women I believed would make wonderful friends, but I wasn't prepared to replace Eleanor. Still, it made me realize life could continue and that I might find a partner again. That love wasn't a closed chapter. I returned home feeling transformed, more content, and loving my Mustang even more. That's when I saw Eleanor at a mutual friend's wedding. The sight of Eleanor stunned me. She appeared gaunt and thin, with a severe hairstyle and weary eyes, a shadow of her former self. "Go say something pleasant to her, Dad," Bella said, nudging me, her voice urgent. "I need to ask you a favor." I traversed the room, my movements deliberate. "Hello, Eleanor. You've lost weight. Is this a new hairstyle?" She spun around, her eyes brightening with a fragile hope. "Do you like it?" she inquired, her voice light. I didn't want to become inactive and out of shape. I wanted to reinvent myself. "You've always been beautiful to me," I stated, a carefully delivered half-truth. "Focus on what makes you feel good. Your long hair always framed your face and brought out your best features, like your eyes and dimples." Her smile returned, a genuine, luminous thing. "And you don't need to diet. Forget fashion trends. Whoever's next will concur that women with curves are preferable. Go have a burger. You need to eat." As I walked away, Eleanor looked bewildered, watching me for the remainder of the night, a confused frown on her face. I subtly maintained my distance, ensuring no further interaction. The next day, Bella called, her voice relieved. "Dad, you were wonderful at the wedding." Mom seemed happier than she has been in a while. She even ate a full meal. She called me this morning, practically glowing. She added, mimicking Eleanor's voice, "Dad will probably like me better if I have curves again." "What did you tell her?" "I merely said she's beautiful and shouldn't concern herself with dieting," I replied, keeping my words light. "She's 50 like me. She doesn't need to be thin. Whatever. It's not my concern." "Dad, I need your assistance," Bella stated, her voice shifting to a more serious tone. "Relax," she chuckled, anticipating my reaction. "It's not about Mom. I have a friend who requires help passing algebra and trigonometry. You were excellent at tutoring me in school, a true master of numbers. Don't they have professional tutors? I asked, trying to deflect. Dad, she works nights and can attend most sessions. Sky is unique. Can you please try for me? Besides, you don't have much else occupying your time. You're retired. I went to meet my daughter's friend. She possessed vibrant red hair, and initially, I thought she appeared heavy, though there was a striking quality to her. Bella mentioned that the woman had a condition and struggled with self-esteem. She was quite reserved and seemed unsure of herself, her eyes downcast. On that warm day, when we met at the Daily Grind coffee shop downtown, she brought her textbook, and I commenced explaining the sections she didn't comprehend from the chapter their class was covering. Unfortunately, she also experienced difficulty with previous chapters, fundamental gaps in her understanding. So I suggested we revert a few chapters to strengthen her grasp of the fundamentals before catching up with the class. She agreed, and we scheduled several study sessions throughout the week. For some inexplicable reason, she began to genuinely like me, her guardedness slowly receding, and I started to ponder how her condition, whatever it was, affected her. The next time we met, still at the Daily Grind, we worked for about 3 hours before she became a little frustrated, her brows furrowed in concentration. This pattern continued for several weeks, and we grew more comfortable with each other, a quiet rapport building between us. I frequently lost track of the conversation or found myself drifting off while gazing into her eyes, mesmerized by their depth. Finally, one day, before a Thursday afternoon class, I asked her if she'd like to come to my residence. The weather was becoming warmer, and I told her we could conduct 2 sessions on a Saturday afternoon before she had to depart for work, making it more convenient and comfortable without a coat. She looked at me and smiled, a shy, tentative smile. "I'd really like to study at your house," she said, her voice soft. "Not sure about the coat, though. I wear it for my safety and yours." "Sky, I never make you feel uncomfortable," I assured her, my voice gentle. "You understand this by now. You cannot control how you were born. Physical conditions are nothing to be ashamed of." She laughed, a short, sharp sound devoid of humor. "Who informed you I'm deformed?" she inquired, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Bella did," I replied, surprised by her reaction. "Mr. Croft, Bella was merely joking. I'm not actually deformed, unless you view it that way. I suppose I'm just heavy then." "There's no issue," I stated, trying to reassure her. "Oh, but there's an issue," she corrected, her voice firm. "Do you possess a computer?" she asked. I looked at her, puzzled, intrigued. "Google Mia Marlowe," she instructed. "Watch the video. I have the same predicament. I'll call you tomorrow to plan for Saturday." As she walked away, she lightly touched my arm, and I realized I faced a dilemma. This woman couldn't be older than 30. To me, she was just a child. When I arrived home, there were 10 messages on my voicemail, all from Eleanor, my former wife. We had been divorced for almost a year, and I couldn't fathom why she suddenly wished to converse, her sudden interest perplexing. The phone rang, and I expected it to be her, but it was Bella. "Dad, everything is chaotic and it's my fault. What are you going to do?" she asked, her voice bordering on a shriek. "Wait, honey," I said, trying to calm her. "What do you mean?" "Mom," she explained, her voice breathless. "Remember when I made you say pleasant things to her at the wedding? Well, she's lost it. She started eating again and styled her hair the way she thought you preferred it. She believes she can win you back, and it's my fault, Dad. I don't know what transpired between you two, but I think you like Sky. I know she's young for you and has some issues, but she's truly a good person. Just be kind if you need to let her down. You don't wish to know what she endures at work, the cruelties she faces." I didn't want to air with Eleanor. I was relieved she was emerging from her depression, but I couldn't envision myself with her again. Too much had transpired, Too much pain, too much betrayal. On the other hand, Sky fascinated me. What could possibly make her interested in me, an older, scarred man? She was beautiful, vibrant. When we studied, I often found myself staring at her as she navigated problems. Her smile was captivating, her lips were full, and I wondered what it would be like to kiss them or gently caress them. It seemed my life was a perpetual cycle of peaks and valleys. For nearly a year, I hadn't met or spoken to any women other than those I encountered while traversing the Heritage Trail. Now, two women were interested in me, one I didn't desire and one I couldn't have. While I pondered my situation, I activated my computer and searched for the name Sky had mentioned. I discovered numerous results and questions. There were terms I didn't recognize. An alien landscape of online culture. What on earth is vlog? I watched a video. It turned out to be a video blog of a woman attempting to lose weight. She was quite attractive and somewhat resembled Sky, but it wasn't her. The hair and facial features were distinct. Was Sky trying to convey she needed to lose weight? Was that a concern? It wouldn't matter to me at all. I began watching some earlier videos, and after a few, I was astonished. The only person who considered this woman heavy was herself. She possessed an incredibly curvaceous figure that no man would categorize as overweight. She had a flawless physique, full curves, a tiny waist, and striking proportions. As her videos progressed, she discussed dieting less and her interactions with viewers more, revealing more of herself, her personality shining through. As her audience grew, the less she wore, the more attention she garnered, a strange paradox. I was taken aback. I instinctively answered the phone when it rang. "Julian, would you like to come over for dinner to see your daughter, son-in-law, and grandchildren? I'm preparing a roast, just as you like it, with carrots and potatoes." Eleanor offered, her voice sweet, enticing. I wasn't sure what to say. I had always told everyone I desired things to be easy and comfortable so the children wouldn't feel awkward inviting both of us. So I assented against my better judgment. I arrived expecting a relaxed family dinner. When I got there, David was in jeans and a t-shirt, and we chatted for a bit about sports and work. Then Eleanor descended the stairs in a new dress that revealed her legs, a daring choice for a family dinner. She had gained some weight since the wedding, filling out her frame, but she looked healthier, a glow about her. Her hair was down and flowing, and she appeared better than she had at the wedding, where she had worn too much makeup and her hair was stiff, unnatural. She smiled at me and sat beside me, her presence almost suffocating. "The roast will be ready in 20 minutes, she said. "Bella is upstairs, trying to prepare the children for bed." She took my hand and looked at me, her eyes pleading. At that point, David decided to go check the wine for dinner, sensing the tension. "Will we have wine?" I inquired, my voice carefully flat. That established the evening's atmosphere, a strained dance of politeness and unspoken history. I frequently found myself alone with Eleanor, who continued to smile at me, a silent invitation. The food was delectable. When you're accustomed to someone cooking for you for so long, and then it ceases, you learn to appreciate it even more, a stark reminder of what was lost. I recalled the last time we all had a roast dinner together. The occasion, Bella's dry, fare nearly did us in, and Eleanor introduced the idea of naming our grandson after Raymond, which ultimately led to our divorce. After dinner, Bella rose to do the dishes, and David assisted her, a convenient escape. Eleanor suggested we take a walk or sit on the porch. "If we were at home, we'd be out on our veranda," she remarked, her voice wistful. "It feels like another lifetime, but it's only been a year. So much has changed. It truly does feel like a long time ago." I agreed, a faint echo of truth in my words. "Julian, have you been with anyone since our divorce?" she asked, her voice soft, tentative. Of course, I replied, a calculated lie, plenty of times. I'm a free man now. Oh, she said, sounding deeply disappointed, her face falling. I suppose I deserve this. What do you mean? I inquired, playing along. I haven't been with anyone since us. I didn't even try. I was waiting for you. So you're just having fun, or no? I clarified, enjoying her discomfort. I'm seeing someone. I smiled, a knowing, triumphant grin. She looked down at her feet, and I thought she might weep, the mask of composure finally cracking. Who is she? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. It's not a woman, I said with a chuckle, enjoying her confusion. She looked shocked, her head snapping up. Who are you within? She asked, her eyes wide. With you, Eleanor, I exclaimed, laughing aloud, a cruel, mocking sound. What did you expect? We were married for so long, and I loved you deeply. It would require time before I could simply move on and be with someone else. It would take time to overcome you, to find someone new, and to forge memories that could supplant the ones we created in our final years, the painful ones. Why would you want to replace them? She asked, hurt visible in her eyes. It was a good period for you, Eleanor, but it was arduous for me. I loved you more than anything, but I knew you were unfaithful. I knew you repeatedly betrayed me. You knew I was devoted to you, but I had to share you, and in those moments, he was more significant to you. I was merely a convenience. It wasn't like that, Julian. Never, she insisted, her voice rising in protest. You don't perceive it, do you? There was never anyone else for me. I loved you as much as you loved me. I still do. I only slept with Raymond a few times. He's gone. Julian, there's no reason to bring him up. Let him rest. You're right. I conceded, a chilling calm descending upon me. But why did you mention it then? Why bring him back from the grave? I didn't, she said, tears in her eyes. I merely inquired if you'd been with someone, and now we're bickering as usual. This always happens. I wanted to ask you something, and it deviated. Perhaps we should change the subject, I suggested. Or perhaps we shouldn't converse at all. Let's simply appreciate the evening with our family and leave it at that. Perhaps I'll see you around. Tonight wasn't so bad. We navigated dinner without a major argument. That's a step in the right direction. She nodded, but her expression indicated disagreement. Her eyes were narrowed as she tried not to cry. Her jaw clenched. It's a beautiful night, I said, shifting the conversation, enjoying her discomfort. You know what would enhance it? She asked quietly, her voice almost a purr. A cold beer, I suggested, a small smile. I was thinking we could return to your place, she stated, leaning closer, her hand reaching for mine, and be together. Like old times. I choked and took a deep breath, the audacity of her suggestion stunning me. Eleanor, neither of the boys would be pleased about that, and neither would their grandmother, I said, looking away. Why wouldn't I approve? Eleanor asked, a puzzled frown on her face. I'd love it. After all, after months of you dating and living here with that grandma influencer on your computer, you better be ready for more than a kiss when we leave here. I didn't mean you, I clarified, a small smirk playing on my lips. You mentioned their grandmother, Eleanor retorted sharply. Don't tell me you're contemplating moving in with David's mother. Her husband only passed 2 months ago, and you never liked her much. No, I was referring to Grandma, as you called her. When Sky and I marry, she'll be their grandma too. I revealed, watching her face shatter. Sky and Eleanor both looked stunned, their eyes wide. Bella, who had just entered the room with David, dropped a plate. But Dad, Sky is barely older than me. She can't be my stepmother. The primary reason I introduced you to was because you both needed someone at that point to help alleviate the pain. It was never intended to be permanent. Bella wailed, her face aghast. Well, you did a splendid job because I love Sky, She loves me, and we're committed. We're also going to be parents, so Bella, you're going to have a new sibling, and the boys will have a new aunt or uncle. As for you, Eleanor, I'm not sure what that makes you. Perhaps their ex-grandmother or step-grandmother. We'll figure it out as we proceed. Is this part of your revenge, Julian? Eleanor questioned, her voice rising, edged with hysteria. Is that what this is about? You confronted Raymond, but never retaliated against me. Now you've gotten this girl pregnant just to hurt me, because you wanted me to experience the pain you believe I inflicted upon you. Is this your ultimate weapon? She sat up in bed, a wild look in her eyes. Do you even realize how serious this is? She said, raising her voice, gesturing frantically. You could be tied to her for the rest of your life, at least until the child matures. Did you truly need your vengeance that desperately? Was I not enough to torment? Eleanor, cease thinking solely of yourself. I stated firmly, my voice cutting through her accusations. When I discovered your and Raymond's affair, I did assault him, and that wasn't all. I handled the rest quietly. At the time, I believe I was seeking revenge, but left me feeling hollow, empty. When he passed away, I wondered if it was because I targeted the wrong person. Raymond didn't betray me. You did. Raymond didn't pledge faithfulness to me. I couldn't physically harm you or do anything to you, Eleanor, but I couldn't remain married to someone I didn't trust. Our divorce wasn't an act of revenge. I simply couldn't live with that mistrust. It took me a long time to realize that what I was expressing wasn't anger about vengeance. It was a yearning for love, and I found that with Sky. I'm pleased you're improving, Eleanor, I stated, gathering my tablet, preparing to leave. If this was some sort of ploy to get me to the hospital so we could reconcile, it was futile. But you're both welcome at the wedding, should you choose to attend. I departed the medical center feeling considerably better than when I arrived, lighter, freer. As the door closed, I overheard them arguing over who would settle the hospital bill, their voices shrill, discordant. It was irrelevant, but I knew it wouldn't be me. My payment had already been exacted.